All right, Phil, let's go ahead and wrap up in the Western Conference side of things. Just like the East, the 1 and the 2 seeds should be fine. Our LA Titans should have no issue waxing the Mavericks and whoever stumbles into the 8th seed today. In the 3 versus 6, though, we do see the Denver Nuggets taking on the Utah Jazz. Jokic and crew took all 3 regular season games. So can the Jazz turn that around, Jay?
Can I first just dispel some of these big brain pundits out there who really think Portland is going to beat LA in the first round should they beat Memphis later today? Can we just stop with that nonsense? I'm telling you, some of this stuff we've witnessed in the bubble is not real. If you think Portland is beating the Lakers in the first round, I guess you think Phoenix would win the NBA title if they let them in the playoffs. We have to stop with some of this. We have to stop with some of this nonsense. We really do. But the Lakers beat Portland, no problem. I am kind of interested. Out of all the 1-8-2-7 matchups, I'm most interested in Mavericks Clippers because I'm anxious to see the whole Luka Kawhi matchup, plus you Paul George and Kristaps Porzingis. I think that's going to be interesting, although Clippers should handle them in about 5 games. But anyway, Denver, Utah. Denver wins this series, I say in 6 games, and I think that's probably being a little generous to Utah because, I've been very hard on Utah ever since the NBA season got shut down. I think there's something to be said between Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell and that relationship. I'm unsure about that. I still am. No Bojan Bogdanovic. That's a huge deal. It continues to be a factor for their for how they play offensively. Huge weapon for them that they won't have. They're going to need big games from guys like Jordan Clarkson. They're going to need Joe Ingles to hit shots from the outside. I don't think they get it done. I will tell you this. One thing I am looking at in this bubble was that Denver-Utah matchup that went to double overtime. Utah played about as well as they could play. Donovan Mitchell hit 4, 5, 6 clutch shots to keep that game in play and push it to double overtime. But Rudy Gobert, all the respect in the world for his defensive prowess, he can't handle Nikola Jokic. It's just a fact. And with that in mind, if you can't handle Jokic, it's going to be hard for you to beat Denver, even though they've got some parts in the backcourt that they won't have with Gary Harris and Will Barton. Those guys have still not returned. So when you look at all that, Denver wins this series in 6 games.
Oh yeah, I'm with Jay. Denver win this series. Just for the sake of argument, I would say Denver wins it in 7 rather than 6, just so we're not like all talking the same jargon. Denver definitely win this game. Why do they win this game? Jay just said it. In my Vince Conor McGregor voice, look, when Rudy Gobert is defending Jokic, he's stuck in the mud. I'm sorry, he just stuck in the mud division. As good of a defensive prowess he is, defense player of the year, every accolade you can give to a player on the defense side of the ball, Rudy Gobert done had it. But he can't play Jokic. I'm sorry. That dude got his number. The European matchup. Like, listen, he got his number. That's the bottom line. And I do feel like if Murray comes and be the shooter that he was last postseason, it's very hard to beat. It's very hard to beat Denver. Now I would say this: Denver is missing 2 key parts. Will Barton and Gary Harrison. Those are 2 key guys that was on that run last year that got them to the Western Conference Finals. They don't have those guys, which tells me that they're not gonna be. I don't think they're gonna be as tough as they usually be, which would lend to Utah getting a couple of games with Mitchell doing his thing and whatnot, Joe. But I looked, and this is how I looked at Utah before this game. You got Donovan Mitchell, you got Joe Ingles, you got Rudy Gobert. You got what's his name? Conley. You got him too. I don't know how to feel about Conley though. It's been a little while. He's been up and down. This is his career in a nutshell. Do he show up for you? Do he give you enough to offset what Denver's gonna have? Because Michael Porter Jr. for Denver, Michael Porter, that kid coming to play. So you better have someone else that can, you know what I'm saying? You better have someone else that can, that third guy or that fourth guy got to be able to score. Let's talk about benches. Do we think Utah got a better bench than Denver? I haven't seen the evidence. It's good, it's decent, but I haven't seen the evidence that say that. I like Denver bench. So it's very hard for me to see them beating them when everything is on the table. Let's talk about something else we like to talk about. the coaching matchup. You got Quinn Snyder versus Mike Malone. Probably a toss-up in between the coaches. You know, I think, both coaches been getting accolades of what they've been doing with their teams in the recent years, but it's probably a toss-up. So we don't know. If you want to go to who's the best player on the court, it depends on what you're looking for. Me personally, I think the best player on the court is Jokic. I think Jokic can do a lot more. And he has the size and the skill set, put it all together. He can give you more opportunities to score the ball than I think Donovan Mitchell could give you, because I think that's the best player for Utah, than Donovan Mitchell can give you for Utah. So it's little things. I think these teams are close. I just think Denver has one more piece that Utah don't have at this point, and that's what's going to get them to win in Game 7. So, yeah, I'm gonna take Denver in 7.
Yeah, for this one, I just look at two player versus player matchups between the teams. And of course, the first one is Jokic versus Gobert. And to further drive home the point that Gobert cannot seem to handle Jokic. This season, their 3 games they played, Jokic has averaged 29.3 points, 12 rebounds, and 9 assists in Denver's sweep of Utah this season in the regular season. So I really hope they have some kind of plan to slow that down, because if that's what he's doing, then forget about it. I mean, just forget about it. You're not winning a game. Thanks for playing. And I'm also, again, like Drink talked about, your scoring punch, especially off the bench, because I think when you look at these teams in terms of starting 5, they're pretty close, But when you talk about the off the bench punch, Denver has Michael Porter Jr., who's been playing fantastic, especially as of late in this restart. He's almost shooting 50, 40, 90. I mean, he's not far off. He's been brutally efficient when you talk about a guy that isn't one of these just walk up 2 feet from the rim and set it in type players. I mean, he's getting great shots, and he's not taking a bulk of shot. He's taking really smart, efficient shots, and he's doing it with Denver's second unit. So while, their bench may not be the best in the world, he's really kind of staggered into that second lineup where he can be the primary scorer, and he takes advantage of it. Jordan Clarkson can kind of be that guy for the Jazz at times, but that's a little streakier. And if I got to rely on either Porter Jr. or Jordan Clarkson coming through when that team needs points off the bench or when that second unit's out, I got to go with Michael Porter Jr. right now. So I think when you look at those two matchups, it just looks like Denver has a lot of clear advantages, and I just don't believe in the Jazz today. I watched them a couple times, especially in this restart, and I just don't know who scores for this team and who just puts them over the edge, and I got Denver in a sweep as far as I'm concerned, but Utah might get a game. We'll see. We'll go ahead and go over to the Thunder matchup versus Houston. So this is, Thunder 4 seed, which is about 6 higher than anyone thought they'd be, but they get to draw the small ball Rockets and run. OKC split the series 2-1 in the regular season, and Russell Westbrook is nursing a quad injury and might miss a couple games. So how do you think that looks for him, Drink?
This is another series, and I want to say this. This should be the best series in the first one. I mean, it's a little hard to say because we need to see the ball get thrown up first. But I think on paper, this is probably the best series on paper. More even teams, even with Westbrook playing, you got to think. I think the teams are fairly even just because the even killed nature of OKC right now. But with that said, I'm going to take these guys for 7. No, I'm not a Houston fan. I just so happen to have the Houston hat on as we talking. I'm going to take Houston in 7 just because I think at some point when Westbrook does come back, that star power will give them the extra oomph to, win Game 7, get the last shot. You have 2 guys that's, probably capable of getting you a game winner over OKC where they're probably looking at CP3 or Shea Alexander to probably take the last shot for them. And then I don't know if their starting lineup has – I think with just Harden, it has enough punch. But when you bring Westbrook back in the mix, I don't know if they have enough on OKC to beat the Rockets 4 times. See, it's one thing to beat them in January and then come back and beat them in March and all that during the regular season. But now you have to see this team 7 straight games if it goes that far. I don't know if you have enough to stop, Harden for 4 games if it's just Harden, or to stop Harden and Westbrook for 4 games. I think that's a tough ask for a team like OKC, which has overachieved. Let's be real here. OKC has overachieved. We thought they were just going to use these picks they got rebuild, send Chris Paul down to Miami or somewhere else. He was supposed to be in Siberia. We need to remember this. Chris Paul was supposed to be in Siberia. This was supposed to be we told your butt to sit on. You didn't want to listen. So now you're going to go sit in the corner. That's what this was supposed to be for Chris Paul. Instead, it comes out to be the Science Fair Expo, and he out here with the best project. That's what it's looking like out here. So with that said, applaud to OKC and everything that they're doing over there. Salute to them. But I think Houston take them in 7.
Yeah, this is probably the most compelling series of all the first round series. I think it's the one that I'm most unsure about. To me, it's real simple. It's all about James Harden. If James Harden is the MVP candidate, James Harden, that he is traditionally in the regular season and also this season, then this is a series Houston should win. Like you say, OKC has absolutely overachieved this year. I had them buried in the basement of the Western Conference, along with teams like Memphis, who also overachieved this year. But if James Harden is James Harden, and I think in the first round series, he can give you what he's given you traditionally. He's normally, when we see him kind of break down and run out of gas and come up short, it's normally in the later rounds. I think in a first round series, James Harden can carry you enough. But I think and I think if Houston gets off to a good start and they win the first couple games in this and then get Westbrook back, I think that's trouble for OKC, and it could be a pretty quick series. But if OKC gets off to a good start and they get up, it could be very interesting. I think it's a long series. I think it does go 7, but I'm going to give the edge to Houston and James Harden.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that. This is tough because, again, it feels like these are almost like diametrically opposed teams, right? Like team ball and defense with OKC versus these all-star, no defense with Houston. I'm exaggerating, but you know what I mean. They do feel night and day when you look at how they kind of approach the game. And the Thunder, they were all kind of all over the place in the bubble. I mean, they embarrassed the Lakers, then they let Memphis kind of drag them all over the court the next night. And some teams, like you said, Jay, it's the bubble. We're not trying to get too much into it, but it's a little concerning for a team that you would hope would be a little more cohesive, because they're going to have to really rely on that team cohesion and that focus to be able to get over a team like Houston in the first round. But I think they got a great coach in Billy Donovan, so they're going to come in, they're going to keep these games really close. And then for Houston, as big as James Harden is, we know what he's going to give you. It's how fast can Westbrook come back? I think if he comes back for game 3, then they'll get this put away in 5 or 6 probably. But if Westbrook doesn't play maybe at all, then this you got to think this is going to go 7. And this could be what I would be the most concerned of for Houston is if this does go 7 and James Harden's got to go freaking supernova in round 1 to get you through OKC. How does that affect the team mentally? Going forward, and do we already see the issue of James Harden getting burned out into the playoffs, even with that rest time he had? Is that going to affect him? So we'll see. But yeah, I'm thinking Houston does take this a 6 or 7, depending on Westbrook's health.